Hey guys, Gore here. Welcome back to the channel. Today is going to be the first installment of a new series I'm dubbing Infantry Masterclass. These videos will be shorter, focused guides that will only cover a single facet of infantry play per episode. The goal of the series is to provide more bite-sized information that's both easily digestible while not being watered down by throwing too much information at you all at once. For our inaugural episode, I wanted to cover one of the most important and influential infantry strategies in Squad, flanking. Before we dive into things, if you find today's video helpful, leave it a like and consider subscribing to the channel for more future Squad content. And lastly, if you're watching this video within a few hours of release, I'm live streaming over on Twitch right now. Come on by for a bit or just to say hello. Now, let's get into things. There are two aspects to flanking that I'll be touching on today that I personally identify as either small scale or large scale flanking. In large scale flanking, your movement is just that, large. These flanks are the ones that you travel hundreds or more meters to get to your desired location. Additionally, during these flanks, your general whereabouts remains completely unknown to the enemy. So there's a few predetermining factors that come into play when deciding upon a large-scale flank. The first is time constraint. How much time do you have to execute your maneuver and get to your desired position before adverse things start happening to your team? The more time you have, the further you can stretch out your flank and get into even more opportune locations. The next constraint is manpower and equipment. Are you flanking on foot, in a logi, with 2 squad members, with a full squad? All of these factors will either limit or enhance your possibilities of both route choice and survival chance. Finally, and this constraint is a bit more subjective, but how skillful of a player are you? Can you comfortably neutralize targets on your own or with limited help? Or are you more prone to losing many of the fights you get into? Being realistic with your own skill level may be difficult, but it will allow you to make much more informed decisions instead of always thinking you're up for the Hail Mary. Now that we've identified all of our possible constraints, let's take a look at a map and determine what a good flank would look like based on different sets of criteria. First and foremost, the whole purpose of a flank is to attack or position yourself somewhere that you're not expected. When we look at any objective we want to perform a flank on, identify where the defender's cone of vision is. This is oftentimes 60 degrees left and right or up and down of the lines that connect the objectives on the map. We want to do our best to stay away from this cone of vision. Our first example is as follows. You and your full squad of 8 other players are equipped with a logi and have been tasked with attacking Bahadur proper. Your defense is holding strong, so you have no time constraint. As you look at your map to choose a route, you notice that the enemy main is on the southwest of your objective. Choosing a southern route could lead you to cross paths with an enemy logi or even worse, an enemy armored Vic, so south is off the table. Your defense flag is to the east of Bahadur, so any approach from the northeast to southeast will end up failing as that's where your enemy is already looking. Well then, north it is, but how far north? Well, the whole point of a flank is compromised if you're seen, so we're going to use the natural cover of this northern hill to get northwest of the objective. From here, we have a straight shot to Bahadur and the map is our oyster. The final decision to be made is how close do you risk getting and do you have the supply for multiple fobs? Ideally, 2 is 1 and 1 is none, especially when you're behind enemy lines. If you can manage it, shoot for setting up 2 fobs. When considering how close you want to get, keep in mind that in general, you get 2 waves of spawns off a new fob or rally before your enemies know where you're coming from. If your first attack fails, is your spawn close enough to maintain pressure, or is it too far away that your enemy will have the opportunity to reposition and squash any further attempts? Our next example is a little simpler. You and your other 3 fire team members have been tasked with trying to take down an enemy fob. Your defense is being relentlessly attacked from enemies spawning on this fob, and you can't hold out for much longer. Spawning on your own defense fob, moving forward, is not an option as that's where the enemies are. The first thing that we're going to do is get some standoff in the direction we know is safe, which just so happens to be the opposite direction of where we need to be. The amount of standoff you need is based on the terrain. Whether it be 50 or 250 meters, you need to get somewhere that you can maneuver that provides cover and where you can remain unseen by your opposition. Once you have this standoff, you need to decide which direction you'll be flanking. There isn't always an indicator, but more often than not, the map is split into friendly and enemy territory based on main placement. You typically don't want to flank on the side of the map where your enemy's main is, as that's a side where you're more likely to run into soft or armored Vics going to and fro, which may either expose your flank or wipe it out completely. Once you've gotten into a comfortable position that's outside of your enemy's cone of vision, you can move to neutralize the enemy fob. In this particular example, it may be worth the effort to have a fob creation mark on the enemy hab so you and your fire team can find the radio and dig that down instead of trying to fight more enemies than you can handle. Moving on, small scale flanking is far more simpler than large scale. In a small scale flank, your enemy is aware of your general location and you need to do something to either prevent being killed or reposition to secure a kill or several kills. For this, let's break things down even further into defensive stance and aggressive stance. These are simply, are you on the back foot and need to get to cover, regroup, and maneuver, or are you actively seeking out and neutralizing enemies but you need to remain mobile in order to survive longer and inflict more damage? In a defensive stance, the most important information that should be constantly updating in the back of your head is where is my nearest piece of hard cover and does that cover allow me to maneuver to a new location? Having a nice big rock as your go-to cover may seem like a great idea, but it leaves you no option to reposition. Instead of that rock, maybe you choose to shoot from the crest of a hill. Now when you're seen and engaged, you can step back out of your enemy's line of sight and find a new firing position. This position could be 10 meters away or 200 meters away. You have to recognize what the situation calls for and if sustained fire is more important or inflicting more casualties over a longer period of time is the goal. In an aggressive stance, you have one thing on your mind: forward. You want to inflict the greatest amount of damage as quickly as possible, but we're no fools. We know charging aimlessly into enemy lines is only going to end with us face down in the dirt, so we have to use our brains. These tactics mainly pertain to close quarters fighting, but you never want to be static and you never want to follow your shots. Remaining mobile and not allowing the callouts of downed enemy players to be accurate will have your opposition always looking the wrong way. Now, the second half of my previous sentence may have a few of you raising your eyebrows in confusion. Never follow your own shots. What could that possibly mean? Well, let's take a look at an example to help explain my point. Bad guy 1 is outside of a compound in front of an open doorway. Bad guy 2 is inside the compound. Bad guy 1 gets taken down and the second guy takes notice. More often than not, bad guy 2 is going to do nothing but stare at that open doorway, waiting for the inevitable entry of whomever took out his buddy. These are the situations where we take advantage of our enemy's tunnel vision and approach from an unexpected location and inflict further damage. Don't be predictable. Even making small adjustments to your movement in close quarters can net you huge returns. Anyways, that's all I've got for you today. If you enjoyed the video and would like to see more future episodes in the series, hit that subscribe button. Thank you all for watching, and until next time, I'm out.